Good afternoon, and welcome to my little corner of YouTube. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're a subscriber, I really appreciate you, and welcome back. So what are we doing today? Well, what am I doing today? I keep saying that. Well, we're doing a gun review. Actually, two guns. If you saw from the thumbnail, you got an idea what we're talking about. So let's get right to this, and we'll start the little conversation here. We're talking about two guns. We'll start with this one. The Smith & Wesson Model 10 Military and Police, also known as the Victory model because of the V in the serial number. I don't know if we can actually see it on this, but it's really kind of, come on. This thing gets in the way. Come on, where are you? There we go. Yeah, I give up. It's kind of hard to do this. But anyway, this is the Model 10 Military and Police or Victory model. And this is the gun that saved Smith & Wesson's backside. Apparently, Smith & Wesson had developed a submachine gun. I don't think it did too well in the trials here in the U.S. But Britain, or Great Britain, whatever, England, I guess it passed some of their trials and they ordered a bunch. And yeah, it didn't work out exactly the way they'd like it. It actually, the gun was having some serious, dangerously serious issues. And I'm not going to go into it because I'm not really versed on the submachine gun itself. Excuse me here. The sinuses are gotten to me today. But Smith & Wesson said, well, instead of sending you these machine guns that you're really not happy with, because Smith & Wesson had tooled up to make these things, and there was a big order, and then they'll turn around and they said, no, we don't want it because it's crap. So Smith & Wesson decided to sell them a whole bunch of these guns chambered in the British caliber. Now, normally the U.S. had the same gun. You've seen 4-inch versions and 5-inch versions. This is a 5-inch one that are 38 special. This is 38 Smith & Wesson. And if you're not familiar with the 38 Smith & Wesson, it's a very short cartridge compared to the 38 special, and I'll show you a couple of comparisons here in just a minute. They set it up to shoot the British conversion of the 38 Smith & Wesson, which was called the 380-200. Yeah, it was a 38 Smith & Wesson with originally a 200 grain lead round-nosed bullet, but at the time of the war, of course, you can't use soft lead bullets, so from the Hague Convention or whatever, so they went to 180 grain jacketed round nose, full metal jacket, and this gun is pretty much set up to shoot that. We'll get into the cartridge so much. The bullet diameter on a 38 Smith & Wesson is actually somewhere closer to .360, where on a 38 special, it's .358. And that's your diameter of your bullet. This has a barrel, the same barrel as the 38 special, so it's .358. But the British cartridge was .360. So it was kind of a tight fit. It still worked. they may have downsized the jacketed one for to fit that. But the other guns that British used, the Enfield and the Webley, had the barrel dimensions for 360. And well, I really can't show you. I've slugged these barrels just to make sure I was correct in my assumption between the Smith and Wesson and the Enfield, which is the other gun you see in the thumbnail. We'll get to that gun in a minute. So they shipped a ton of these over to England, Australia, Canada, whatever, anything that was a British provenance. This particular gun actually came out of Israel years and years ago. There was a bunch of them that were in storage in Israel. They were taken out of service. They were redone. This thing is, I mean, you can see the case hardening on these trigger and the hammer. They're beautiful case hardening, still there. They parkerized the gun, which gives it that kind of flat, dull, gray color. But this thing's tight. This thing is absolutely 100% tight. It's not sloppy. The lockup is beautiful on it. The double action trigger pull is horrendously hard. I think that's because they were really worried about, light strikes or something. I'm not sure, but I know one thing. Shooting this gun in double action is brutal. I have a hard time getting decent groups. I stay on target, but I can't get a decent group with this gun. That trigger pull is just, I don't know, I can't weigh it. It's just so heavy. So, anyway, that's this particular gun. It's a really nice gun. I've had this thing for quite a few years. And it's a hand loader's dream, because if you ever try to price 38 Smith & Wesson at your local store, if you can find it, they only make it once or twice a year or at least actually one time a year they make a run of 38 Smith & Wesson. And you might be lucky at your local gun shop to find a box or two. But usually they're running almost $50 a box. And it's been expensive for a very long time. I was lucky years ago. When I got this gun in, actually I got quite a few of these guns in when I had the gun shop. I also had ammo shipped in at the same time, and all of it was all marked out of Israel. And so yeah, I get a good supply of brass, so I hand load everything. If I find some at a gun show, I usually grab some, because I usually can get it at least a little bit cheaper there. It may be new old stock. It's not a real popular caliber, but I love the caliber myself. It is a fun caliber to shoot. So let's go introduce the second gun. The second gun is an Enfield. And this is the Enfield that never was. And I say it never was because in its present form, it was never issued to any military I have ever known. You'll see these for sale on online gun broker. Occasionally they have a few of them floating around, and they call them tanker Enfields or paratrooper Enfields. No. Never made a 2-inch barreled Enfield. For the longest time I thought, years ago, because this gun also came out of Israel too. But through the importer I was using, they took a bunch of these and bobbed them. And if you look really close, let me see if I can do this. If you look right here, you can see, or maybe it'll show up better on this side. God almighty. Let's get some light on the subject. You might see right where they silver soldered that this part back on to the barrel rib. Yeah, this gun has got some issues. I've had this thing so long, and I've had this thing out in the field and stuff. I actually at one point actually carried this gun as a personal defense gun, loaded with the right ammo, which was Handloads at the time. I felt sufficient. Well, we're going back quite a few years, so ammo back then, you didn't have a whole lot of choice in ammo for a lot of guns. You just had jacketed, soft point, hollow point, lead round nose, things like that. And I used to load these with oh, damn it, I dropped it. The 148 grain hollow base wad cutter, and I still do on occasion, but I'm not so much using this for personal defense anymore. So I load a bunch of different types of bullets for it, just for fun. I don't carry this thing anymore. It's kind of sits in the gun safe and just collects dust and rust, and well, the rust has been there for a long time. I got this thing. It had some rust issues on it. I don't know where it was sitting for so many years, but anyway, yeah, that gun never existed in the British military. They all had 5.5-inch barrels. But there's one thing I like about this gun, and it's something the trigger pull on this. It's probably the slickest double action, because this is double action only. You can, yeah, it won't stay back. But this has got one of the shortest. You can see where it breaks. Once it breaks, it goes back another little, the trigger travels a little more after the break. And also, the other part I loved about this was the ejector. I just loved the top brakes. Almost like a Schofield in that respect. Or, Schofield. Smith & Wesson Schofield. I have shot Webleys, and they're just basically the same thing as this, only in 45 caliber. But that is like one of the slickest double actions. And we're going to be taking this out to the range. I'll do some range video here shooting these two guns. You won't see me doing a whole lot of double action with that Smith. It's just too brutal. But yep, the gun that never was. But boy, is it a great little gun. So anyway, we're going to show you some of the ammo, and then we'll get over to the range. Like I said, these things are a hand loader's dream. So we've got 4 examples here. First one is a factory 145 grain lead round nose. That's your standard 38 Smith & Wesson. That's the standard loading. Now, I will load 158 grain. Let me get it in focus here. Come on, focus. There we go. 158 grain. Just a Hornady swaged bullet. A 100 grain. And actually, this is a pretty zippy little round. And then the correct loading, you see by that big chunk of lead on top, the 200 grain, which I have to get a mold for again, because like a lot of other stuff I've had, I got lost in a move. Whether my brother had it or what, I don't know. But anyway, that's a 200 grain cast lead. Now, we'll grab a 38 special here. Let me readjust this a little bit. And kind of zoom in on this. Oh, come on, stop. All right. I think you can see. Stop rolling. The difference in length between a standard 38 special and a 38 Smith & Wesson. Now, all these are loaded with the exception of this one. All my hand loads are loaded with 4.58 bullets. So they work great out of the Smith & Wesson. Not so much out of that Enfield. That's got a little bit bigger bore on it. Granted, it engages the rifling fine, but it leaves a little tiny gap between the rifling and the bottom of the lands. So a lot of that's taken up with, like, this 158 grain. A lot of that's taken up by the fact that it's soft lead. And on the 200 grain bullet, we'll stick that here for reference. That bullet's sized 4.59, so there isn't a whole lot of slop in it. So is this little guy's 4.59. They kind of work okay out of them. Matter of fact, I like this one out of that snubby. It's gonna just shoot so nice with it. And then just for chuckles and grins, pardon me here for a second. Just gonna put a 9mm next to this little guy, and you'd almost think. Actually, it'll be better with this one. With the 100 grain bullet. They look like you could almost stick a 9mm in there, but obviously you can't. Pressures are way off, way different, and all of that good stuff. But, yep. That's what we planned with today. Let me back up here. There we go. The next step is we go over to the range and have some fun with these things. Like I said, it's one of my favorite cartridges. Oh, excuse me. No, it's just non-alcoholic beverage. Anyway, it's one of my favorite cartridges. It's low recoil. You can do a lot with it. A lot of different ways to load it. These 200 grainers that I've loaded are really kind of loaded kind of hot for a little cartridge. The Enfield has a little issue shooting them. Actually, maybe I can show it here. If it'll do it. Oh, come on. I don't know if you can see it that well. Let me get some more light on it. There we go. See, a firing pin is like a freaking needle. If I use anything other than a Magnum primer on this gun, that firing pin will puncture the primer, especially on those 200s. Not so much on the factory loaded, which are like, I don't know, 600 feet per second. The 158 grain load that I do here, they're loaded to like about 600, 650 feet per second. The 100 grain bullet, that's kind of zipping out there. I think the last time I tested them, they were probably closer to 850. And the 200 grainers were I haven't got going back quite a few years since I've loaded them. I think they were like 750 with that big bullet on there. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't want to get hit by something like that. That slow, heavy bullet, which is why the British liked it. That slow, heavy bullet. You didn't have to rely on expansion. You didn't have to rely on massive trauma like a 9mm does. You know, the 1100 feet per second zipping through a target. This bullet would hit and it would just tumble inside the whatever it was hitting. Okay, inside the critter, the bullet would tumble. I don't want to say people because then somebody gets all squeamish, but it is a military cartridge, and that's what it was designed to do. It was designed to hit the medium denser than air and tumble inside of it, causing damage, more damage than just poking a 35 caliber hole through it. So, nowadays, yeah, they make cartridges out there that are tumble on impact. It's the same idea, done slightly different. Actually, when I think of it, Smith and Wesson, the 38 Special, there was a loading. It was called the 38 Police Special, something or other. Basically, what it was a 38 Special with like a 190 grain bullet on it, a soft lead, round nose bullet. It was used, probably back in the 60s, maybe. I actually had some original loadings of it years ago. Picked them up in a gun show, and yeah, they were pretty stout load. Not like a plus P or anything, because you were shooting them through guns very much like this, which really can't take the pressure. I mean, it probably could, but I don't think you'd want to strain the gun with plus P. Losing my train of thought. But using the heavy bullet on these, the bullet would tumble in the target and cause a lot more damage than a 158 grain round nose. At least that was the theory behind it. So we're gonna head over to the range and do some shooting and see how I can do with them. It's been a while, so we'll see. Well, as you can see, we're at our high-tech range again, and now we'll do the shooting portion of this video and see if I can do any justice to these things. Hang on there, we'll be right with you. All right, let's try this. This is 7, 8, 10 yards, whatever. This is the factory ammo, which means the stuff that I got out of Israel, so many years ago. It still seems to work pretty good. That trigger. Ah, let's go take a look at it. Well, that's not too horribly bad. Actually, it's for as old as a gun it is. That's pretty darn good. Now, let's see what I can do on double action. Let's see what I can do with this horrendous double action. Ugh. Oh, boy. Huh. Let's take a walk up there. Well, I kind of surprised myself. I only put one out of the A. I don't get it, but usually I can't shoot that good with this gun. And let me go patch the target, and then we're gonna try the proper bullet weight for the gun, the 200 grain one. Now, remember from the tabletop, these are the 200 grain reproduction of the British 380 or 200, 380, 380, 200. So let's see how these do. I think that's 6. Yep. Let's go take a look at these. Look what I found on the floor. Thought I heard something come flying out. Oh, son of a gun. There's another one. Now you know why I don't shoot close to my target. But that's the group with the 200 grain bullet. It's actually not bad at all. But the point of aim is still the same. I'm aiming pretty much right there. You can see how much higher these strike. All right. Now we'll go play with the Enfield. All right. Out for the Enfield. Let's see what I can do. I haven't shot this one in a while. I do like the double action on this. Okay. Let's go take a look at those. Oh, not too horribly bad. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh dear, 6. Well, really can't argue with that. And these are the 158 grain Handloads rather than the factory 140s. Just to show that it does work out of this gun. There's just a little bit of free bore, but it doesn't hurt it at all. Now I'm going to do the 100 grain bullets. They're a little hotter, a little faster. I can't say hotter, but they move a little quicker. Let's see what I can do with it. Yeah, let's go take a look at those. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I kept them all in the A. I do like that little cartridge. The other thing I do love is the ejection on this. We throws them all over the place. Ah. So what do you think? Think you're gonna run out and buy one of these guns? I wouldn't, unless you're a hand loader like me. That'd be really expensive to use factory ammo with these. But as a gun that add to your collection, a little bit of history, why not? That's why I did it. You know, I bought this little guy because I thought it was cool, and not so much for the military history, but maybe the more modern history of the importers. You know, the import companies that will do all sorts of things to get you to buy stuff. Well, they probably saw me coming with this, but the gun functions perfectly fine. But these things too, these Smiths, a lot of these were cannibalized over the years. A lot of people would change the cylinders out, go back to 38 special, which I can't blame them, but it does ruin the history of the gun. And this thing is all matching numbers. The cylinder numbers, they're all matching. So it hasn't been put together from pieces and parts. So, but I've seen a lot of these cut up, turned into snub nose, converted to 38. Some of them were even nickel plated. That's going back a few years for that. But in the 80s, these things were coming in right and left. And same with the Colt Police Positive Specials. They were coming in, in crates or cases of them. And a lot of gunsmiths were buying them, turning them into basically would be not a cheap special, what is it? A detective special. Same frame. So, well, if you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Um, do all those kind of things. So, until next time, you guys be safe, have fun, and we'll see you next time.